If you're looking to cut costs, a popular way of doing this is by getting a TV streaming box or stick. These devices promise you access to all your favourite content, often at a one-time low price. But these devices are sometimes more nefarious than they might seem, and are perhaps a bigger threat than maybe a little copyright infringement. That's this week on the show that keeps your family safe from scams, hacks, and frauds. The boxes that we're going to talk about today are often referred to as bad boxes or superboxes, but they go by a lot of other names. The exact same software runs on a lot of different looking boxes. The boxes we're talking about today aren't just Temu specials or things found on scammer websites. These are real-life Trojan Horses that have been found on Amazon, on Walmart's marketplace, and even once in a Best Buy store. So we can't give you a definitive list of boxes and sticks to avoid. And there are a lot of similar boxes out there that do very similar things. So treat this as a general warning to be careful about what you buy and connect to your home broadband. And if there's someone in your life who keeps buying junk off the internet, be sure to share this story with them so they can learn just how dangerous that can be. We'll start our story in September 2024, and we're in one of Google's laboratories. They've purchased one of these bad boxes just to see what it does. As soon as they connect it to the internet, the box starts downloading files. Now, this isn't too uncommon. If you're going to buy anything connected these days, the first thing it's going to want to do is update the software and firmware running on the boxes to get the latest bug fixes and security updates. But the files this box are downloading are a little strange. One of them is a program called Pregnancy Ovulation Tracker. The researchers do a quick search for this app, and they find a copy on the Google Play App Store. But this copy, it's not coming from the Play Store. And why would a TV box of all devices be trying to download and install something like that? Something that personal is typically on a person's phone or other device, not your TV. Once the download is complete, the box starts running the Pregnancy Tracker app in the background. Somehow, the Pregnancy Tracker app has started browsing websites. This is something that the approved version of the app doesn't do, and it seems to be following a list of instructions. The app navigates to a site called Elite Game EU and sends data to the app that makes it look like a real user. It seems to click on that annoying cookie pop-up you've seen a million times. It seems to scroll down the page and is clicking on very specific parts of the website itself. The app finds a game and starts to play the game. After a few moments, there's a pop-up ad and the app clicks on the pop-up and repeats this every few seconds. In fact, if you were to try and visit the site, we're not going to link it because it is nefarious. And if you did try to play the games as a real user, you'd find it very frustrating as the ads appear literally every few seconds. You spend longer watching the ads than you do playing the game. The ads were provided to the game by Google's own AdWords system. Each click triggers a payment from Google to the game site. Only a few cents every time, but not nothing. And this box kept repeating that behavior. In effect, the box was charging Google for Google watching it. Later, the app visited a different site, AppGoal, and started using the search function on that site. It would seem to type in specific keywords, just as you would, and then would produce a search result page with ads provided by Google. And again, the box clicks on the ad, meaning Google is required to pay the site for that click too. But this is pretty tame compared to what else the box is doing. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of a VPN by now. It seems that every content creator has a partnership to sell VPN subscriptions. But in case you haven't, a simple way of explaining it is like putting a letter in an envelope that you then send to a friend. Your friend opens it, finds the letter you want to send, and sends it on for you. To the outside world, it looks like your friend sent it, not you. There are legitimate reasons for doing this sort of thing. If you work from home, you probably want to use a VPN to make it appear like you're using your work's network to access the tools and data you need to do your job. But it probably won't surprise you that there are more nefarious reasons for using one. These boxes can act as a VPN's output path. In at least one case, under the brand named MoU, they were charging over $2 US per gigabyte to use a VPN, where these boxes were being used as a relay point. One of the customers who use this VPN service is able to generate fake clicks relayed through these boxes on the scale of a medium-sized city. We're not talking one guy in his mother's basement here. We're talking about a tool that is being used by large-scale organized crime, and it might be sitting in your lounge. But it could be used for other things as well. Imagine what would happen if you could get hundreds of thousands of these devices together and get them to access the same website at the exact same time. The amount of traffic could simply overload the site, knocking it off the internet or slow it to a crawl as it tries to deal with all those requests. This is what's called a distributed denial of service attack, or DDoS. And if that seems somewhat far-fetched, in January 2025 there were more than 1 million of these bad boxes connected. And that's not all they were being used for. Other criminals were using the MoU service to steal people's online accounts. Could you imagine getting a call from the police because some hacker you didn't know was renting your internet connection? For the bad box's next trick, and I'd say for me the most concerning one, I'm going to need to get into a little technical detail. Every device that can connect to the network has something called a MAC address, sometimes more than one. I'll skip the usual hamburger-related joke and just say this is like having a serial number for that network connection point. When you connect to a network, your computer will typically announce itself with a MAC address, effectively saying, "I'm here, who's in charge?" On most modern networks, a router, or said router in some places, will then reply, "If you have home broadband, that's your main internet box." You can think of it as being like a specialized computer to direct internet traffic. The router will give the computer an IP address, which helps the computer understand what computers are near and what computers are far. If something is near, it talks to the computer directly with its MAC address. If it is far, it sends the message to the router, which in turn sends it onto the internet with the IP address. Now, these bad boxes do something particularly malicious. They keep sending messages to other computers locally using their MAC address. And I mean constantly. Remember what I said before about denial of service attacks? Well, it's doing that on a smaller scale. If you've got one of these boxes and have noticed your internet getting slow, well, this is probably why. It's flooding your computer with a whole load of junk messages it has to sort out and maybe reply to. Eventually, this can knock your computer offline. Now, that's irritating. But it gets worse. I want to draw you a picture for a second. Imagine you're in a coffee bar, one of these places where they take your name, write it on the side of the cup, and call out your name when the order's ready. Now imagine what happens if someone whose name is called isn't there. The barista calls the names a couple of times, and some opportunists grab the copy instead. These boxes are in effect making this happen. Once they knock another computer offline, they answer to messages calling that IP and MAC address. When a computer on the internet has a message for your computer, maybe it's the website you wanted or an email being sent to you, it sends it to your router, who then relays it onto your computer. But these boxes, as I said, knock off the computer. When the router announces it has a message for your computer, guess who pretends to be that computer to snatch the coffee? Except this time it's not a coffee, it's your bank statement or important files from your work. And the files it snatches don't just hang around. They're being relayed to other computers on the internet believed to be in China. And if it sees that it comes from a company VPN like your work, it tries to take advantage of that, keeping the connection running. And at least in one known case, a remote worker in the UK had their company's network infiltrated by one of these boxes. And if one of these is, say, in a cafe where people are working, all of those companies could be infiltrated. And one last thing, if I haven't alarmed you enough already, many of these boxes have remote controls with microphones connected to the bad box through Bluetooth. These are promoted as having voice search abilities. However, there is speculation they could be used for more, with one security researcher, Deadass, noting these are configured in a way that allows for the microphone to be remotely accessed. There are no confirmed cases of this particular feature having been exploited, but when we join the dots together on what this could mean, the implications are alarming. Let's say whoever's behind this, China or not, has identified through the internet traffic that one of these boxes is in the home of an important person, a CEO, a senior politician, someone important in the military. Security researcher Deadass has even learned of situations where people in the oil and gas industry have just randomly received them. This box could allow them to eavesdrop on that person while they're in the home, logging not just the internet traffic, but perhaps listening to them when they're making phone calls or important decisions. They could also be used to collect other information on how well propaganda campaigns are working. The implications are truly astounding. You've probably been warned, as long as you've had your computer or devices like computers, to be careful about what you download so you don't get a virus. You've probably been told not to plug in unknown USB sticks in, and some of us are old enough to remember having been warned about unknown floppies. But there's not a lot of thought to put into what devices you are buying. We just assume they are trustworthy. Now, what you probably expect to hear me say here is me telling you only to buy from reputable brands that you've heard of. The problem is, it's not that easy anymore. This week, Gamers Nexus reported on LG computer monitors that download and install programs on people's computers without authorization or even informing the user it's happening. And we're not talking about cheap ones either, we're talking about premium models. Admittedly, it's not as bad as the bad box, but a lot of premium brands are taking liberties with the devices you buy from them. So what I would suggest is that before you buy anything that is going to connect to your home broadband, look for reviews from well-known reputable news sources who have tested the devices that they have. Read all those reviews, and from that choose the one that's right for you. Be careful with just following influencers. Investigations into Bad Box suggest that a lot of money was invested in getting social media influencers to promote this product. If they're not doing detailed tech analysis and teardowns of products like, say, Gamers Nexus do, why are you trusting them on tech? But if you're worried you might have one of these things, here's what to look for. If you've got a box that asks you to download an unofficial app store, or you've bought a different type of streaming stick or box and downloaded Superbox or another media software on there, or followed instructions to jailbreak it, treat that as suspicious. And if you've done it already, consider replacing the box. Although a factory reset might remove it, the firmware of the box could have been changed, which means you get a hacked version in the future. If you've noticed that your internet has slowed down a lot or become unusable since connecting a TV streaming box, stick or TV, disconnect it and dispose of it now. If you notice that your smart TV or smart box downloads apps by itself that you've never heard of, that also makes it a likely suspect. Dispose of it now. I've been C, and this has been Scams, Hacks and Frauds. Have you been hacked or bought a product that allowed a hacker into your home? Have you been the target of a scammer? I want to hear from you. Even if you don't think it would make a good show, I'd still like to have a chat. You can find links in the show notes to contact us, and you can find all of our stories and transcripts at scamshacksandfrauds.com. Scams, Hacks and Frauds is available for free under the Creative Commons with Attribution Share-alike license. If you are reusing our content, the music cannot be reused under this license. You can find more information and our previous shows, along with all transcripts, at www.scamshacksandfrauds.com.